Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be alive. Luke introduced me to Sarah on Monday evening with the statement, best catch-up line ever, "We are the competition, she wants to kill you." So I'm so happy to be alive. I work for a company called OpenGov. At OpenGov, we believe that government is the most important industry, not only because it's the only industry that serves everybody, but also it's the foundation for every other industry that works on top of it. Yet technology has not focused on government for, 30 years? So there's a gap between what the government needs and the tools it has to perform its job, and this is what OpenGov does. Check mark on making sure that the company got something for me being here for 2 days. I have a request. Innovation is not about the idea, it's about turning ideas into reality. It's about creating knowledge and tools for everybody to use. Ideas that you have in your mind are not yet innovation. So if you can pick up your phones and tweet if you see something of interest, by the way, I'm sure that Sarah and Luke would come back to put more of their slides if you want to tweet those. But the more knowledge that we all create, the more knowledge we have then to use. So you can use that, any of those Twitter handles, CMI or CS100 Summit, etc. Let's go in. A Kievan and Israeli walk into a bar in Silicon Valley, starts like a perfect start of a joke, but it's actually how innovation sometimes happen. Ralph and I, Ralph Whitgen, Chief Customer Officer for ProMap in New Zealand, hooked up over LinkedIn. He was coming to the US a few weeks later. We hooked up for coffee, and here we are 7 months later. There are 19 articles written about this concept, 7 or 8 presentations at conferences, a lot of body of knowledge that all started from 2 people meeting and talking about ideas and having an aha moment. What do we want to talk about? The base of customer-vendor relation, that need to service customer, existed forever, probably for millennia. Ever since sellers wanted to sell to customers, the concept of customer service existed. And the better one received better rewards, right? We're able to sell more, deliver more, be stronger. Over time, we were, especially with the advantage of SaaS, we started to become more and more specific in trying to understand what Luke was referring to as predicting what's going to happen. So we developed different mechanisms, such as the customer health score. Anybody here uses customer health score in your operations? Majority of people. The title of this presentation is "Your Customer Health Score is Probably Useless," and I'm going to try and convince you why and what to do about it. But the idea of customer health score is we'd like to understand our customers, and understand our customers is, I think, 3 things. Identify opportunities and challenges that we have with them or they have with us, figuring out a plan of action to address those, and predicting the results. That's why we all use a customer health score. Now, not all customers are created equal, and therefore segmentation is very often used by sophisticated companies in order to differentiate between different health scores. The most common factors or segmentation criteria are stage. It makes no sense to compare the health score of a customer during onboarding with a customer that you have been serving for 3 years, right? Size, mid-market versus SMB versus enterprise versus strategic. Location, North America versus EMEA, or West versus Southeast, etc. Some of the more sophisticated companies that we've identified in our research, Ralph and I, were also segmenting based on industry. What's the health score of customers of ours in retail versus the health score of customers of ours in high tech? And what can we learn about it and what should we do about it? And use cases, customer that use us for this purpose as opposed to that purpose, is there a difference? But even with segmentation, we believe that the customer health score may be very useless. Let me give you an example, kind of the thing that was the aha moment for Ralph and I as we talked about this concept. Practical example. I was the head of customer success, the VP of the team at a company called Mashery, API management, development tools, integration, middleware. And these are 2 specific customers of mine. This is a real case in mind. I won't share the names, but I'll tell you the characteristics. So let's start with making sure that from a segmentation perspective, we are comparing apples to apples. So both of these companies were large enterprises, north of $1 billion in revenue. Both of them were West Coast based, at least their headquarters, and they had relations with us for multiple years. On top of that, I can also tell you that they had very high usage, strong relationship, both at management level and individual contributor, working level people, repeat expansion, so they bought multiple times from us again and again, and had high CSAT from the interaction with our support. So on the face of it, they're supposed to be very healthy, right? But what we actually found when we looked deeper, and this is where the innovation, the light bulb came out, the instinct was we actually we used them, we treated them very, very differently because the fundamentals of their characteristics were very different from one another. Customer A operated out of a single office, supporting a single business that they grew organically. And because that growth was very focused, they had a phenomenal team, high quality, very dedicated people. When the name of their VP of product, it was my main contact, appeared on my phone, I knew I had to breathe and get into my A game, because he would have such questions as, why did the response time got down from 99.96 to 99.94? My CEO sent me a tweet asking. That's the level. So the focus of work with them was about, can we increase the level, the SLA? What advanced features can we give them? How can you grow what you do with us? Versus customer B, that operated out of multiple offices nationwide, supporting 3 very different businesses, which they grew by acquisition. So all of their energy was on consolidating their infrastructure, figuring out how to get a level playing field among different teams. The interaction for us with them was about, how can we get multiple teams of yours to use the same set of features? Let's start with the basics, right? Completely different interaction. They were struggling to retain talent and maybe updating talent in their team. Technology was a barrier for them to do business, not an enabler. We were trying to fit into that and help. Completely different interaction. Now you look at those characteristics, none of them has anything to do with us as the vendor. They are completely objective characteristics of them. In fact, if any of our competitors would look at them, they would look at the same thing. So the customer health score versus what we see here, none of this is captured in your customer health score. So clearly something is missing. The customer is healthy, but I don't get the right picture. Something is missing, that secret sauce. And this is what we call customer maturity index. Now, customer maturity models have existed for a long time. The capability maturity model was invented at Carnegie Mellon University in the late 80s, and 10 years later, there's been a proliferation of writing, and every one of your companies, I'm sure, I'm willing to bet money right now, is using maturity models of some kind. Let me give you one example. The sales qualification process. You're looking at characteristics that have nothing to do with you and all to do with the customer. Do they have the right budget? Are they large enough? Who's the decision maker? All of those characteristics are objective to the customer, nothing to do with you. All of your competitors are looking at them the same way. The outcome, however, of this analysis for the sales team is binary. Qualified or non-qualified. Qualified, we're going to sell. Non-qualified, nurture or stop. Why aren't we in customer success utilizing that methodology and those insights to advance the way we work with customers? There is knowledge here that we can use. So let's try to model that to understand what does it mean. For simplicity, let's put a chart that looks at maturity levels on the bottom versus revenue, and split the revenue between software revenue and service revenue. Assuming most of us work in software businesses, we want more software revenue, less services, because that's how the gross margin goes up. So the thing with sales is that there's a red line, left side, we don't want the customer, right side, we do. For us, we know that customers are not binary. They will operate on some kind of a continuum from immature to very mature. At the very low end, these are customers that probably require, and I'm sure you have customers like that, right? I do a lot. Customers that require a lot of consulting. They need advice to figure out how to use your solution. And that's an investment on your part. At the same time, because they don't know, they can only use very basic preliminary features. So the amount of money you can get from them for software is very low. Maybe you can get some money from services, but the combination of this is a low gross margin, which means that your CAC, right, the amount of time it takes you to return the initial investment is long, maybe even negative. If those are immature customers, maybe they're not worth your time. Maybe the investment is not worth it. But if you move beyond that point and you say, okay, these are good customers, they're mature enough to use my software, there is still a differentiation between low maturity, I need to invest and they can buy less software, which means software revenue is low, service revenue is somewhat, my gross margin is low, I need to struggle, versus on the high-end customers that can use a lot of our software without a lot of services. These are the ones that drive our business, right? They're the ones that we have high gross margin from. You want to move down that path, but you can't really move your customers. Your customers are your customers. What you can is understand the differences so you can take action on how to interact with them. Let's summarize before we move into what to do. Customer health score, keep me honest if you don't agree with that statement, but that's my understanding of, from research around how people use customer health score. Customer health score measures the relations between us, the vendor, and our customers, aiming to predict the trajectory of that relations. Churn, renew, expand. Customer maturity index measures the objective characteristics, the maturity of the customer, the professionalism by which they run their business. And based on that, what we need to do in order to serve them better. It's an outward-looking metric, not an inward-looking, which is churn, all about us and what we can get out of it. Now, if I were able to convince you that customer maturity has some merit to it, and maybe we should look at that, the next question that comes to your mind is, well, Boaz, that's great. How do we do that, right? How do we develop a customer maturity index? And the bad news is that there's no cookie-cutter approach to this. Just like each one of you is developing your own customer health score, because it's unique to your business, you need to develop a customer maturity index that is unique to your business. The good news is that borrowing on customer maturity models out there, Ralph and I were able to build a template that will get you a step in the right way, right? The notion that editing is easier than creating from scratch. So let's walk around this model. Most maturity models look at a function and how mature is the function based on 4 criteria. The charter, what does the function expected to do? And how comprehensive and well articulated and where it is in an organization compared to what it needs to do. And then the people, process, and technology to make it work. So what we have created is a simplistic model, 3 questions in each of those buckets that you can assess your customers on. And we lay them out, and we created a definition of those, and we expanded it out to a survey format so it's easy for you to execute, and we have description of what's low and what's high and how to rate it, and we enable you to score your customers. So again, for simplicity, if you give a 1 to 5 score for each of those questions and then create the mean average for every category, you can also, and I highly advise, to create a weight to each of those categories, because the impact of technology on your particular side of the business or the impact of the charter might not be as important, right? For example, if the charter is extremely well established and is the same across every customer, you probably want to weight less than in other areas, etc. But then you create a formula and a score. So, congratulations. Sample customer has a score of 2.3. So what? Remember that the reason why we've done this analysis is because we said the premise was customer health score in and on itself is not enough. So now, maybe what we should do is create a framework to combine the customer health score with customer maturity. And based on that, create plays that are different for different ones. Now imagine what the situation is. Actually, you don't need to imagine, you run with it every day. If you don't have customer maturity, you have some kind of a low, medium, high, red, yellow, green, or whatever the definition of your health score. And high-risk customers, low health score, we need to go save, right? Green, high health score, we need to upsell, right? That's very simplistic, and normally, again, look back at some examples, you'll probably feel that it doesn't feel right. You add another dimension of customer maturity, and all of a sudden, the flexibility that you all have, that we all have as practitioners in customer success, has much expanded. Let's take an example. If this is a low customer health score customer with a low maturity, you may want to let them churn or churn them proactively. They are taking a lot of your resources, whereas the opportunity to expand their business is low, and the likelihood that you'll be succeeding is very low. Now, if you have ample resources, go ahead, save everybody. If you have scarce resources, like me, like most, you need to divide and conquer. You need to decide what games, what battles you want to fight and what battles you don't. Which is completely different from customers that are very mature. The mature customers have potential. If only we can improve the relations or help them understand how to use our software. They're smart, they know their business, they have the right people, they have the right technology. Assuming our solution is a good one, if we overcome the health score problem, relationship, usage, training, whatever it is, they can move up into high usage. And high usage among people who are good in their job will yield good business to us. Completely different from low maturity people where you can maybe develop solutions for them, but you can't help them just with software. Top right-hand corner is where everybody wants to be. These are the high maturity customers. They are great in what they do, and they're also, they love you. Two things you need to do with those customers, right? These are the customers, to Sarah's point before, that we should leverage for advocacy. Not the ones that are low maturity. These are the ones that the industry loves. These are the ones that the people in the industry respect. They are good in their job. People know that. They're the ones you want on your website and in your conferences and on case studies. These are the people respect. So you want that for advocacy, but also these are the people that really understand. They're on the cutting edge of their business. They can use more software features from you. They can be on the customer advisory board to tell you what features to produce. They can buy more from you. This is the segment you want to expand on, which is very different from high health score, low maturity. For some reason, these people love you, but they're not great in their jobs, right? Hey, anybody doesn't have customers like that? Sometimes, some of our customers are like that. By the way, for some reason, for many of them, it's not a problem of the individuals, it's characteristic, it's their business. They are in a tough business, in a tough position. For whatever reason, their function doesn't operate as well as you'd like it to be, which means they cannot use your software as well. So now you have two things to do. You can retain them, keep them as is. They like you, they pay their bills, they're okay. If you try to expand them, however, you probably need to invest in services. So some of you may have functions in your companies that are named like strategic services or expert consulting or terminology like that. This is the segment that can benefit from those. It's a set of services, management consulting like, that can help you expand the quality of the customer in doing their business so they can utilize more of yours. If you want to invest in that, great. But be thoughtful about it, specify it, put it in a framework to your management to say, you want me to move those customers over? This is what I need. It's not about training. It's not about the product knowledge. It's not about the relationship. It's about them being qualified, good in doing their business. Are we interested in doing that? If you are, great. If you're not, not. 1 minute to go and a short case study. This is what Ralph did in ProMap, software to manage process maps. He came in a situation that had a lot of churn and was trying to figure out what's wrong. Did a survey that kind of was the foundation for CMI, for customer maturity. Created a rating on that survey, plotted it for every customer in a spider web diagram. So the red is where the customer today, the green is where we think we can grow that customer to. Segmented all customers into, figure out some group of customers that should be churned, some that we need to invest in, created an actual services investment arm to go after the consult on process government, specific plays in each of the buckets, and a year later, got turned down from over 10% to 2.2, which I think you would agree is quite remarkable, and has a whole list of other things to do, some of them based on the work that we've done together and how we were able to professionalize this. So to summarize, I have 4 seconds. Your customer health score, in and on itself, might not be good enough in giving you a clear picture of what you need to do. We invested heavily in creating a framework here that started with an idea. You can have links to, and I can give you all of those slides if you can just email me or follow on Twitter. We have blog posts, we have slides out there. We even created a set of templates for CMI calculation and playbooks out of that we published on OpenView Labs. We have videos through Successly that can enable some more insight into it. And we hope that together with the Customer Maturity Index into your operations, you can solve the problem of figuring out what to do, how to apply the right knowledge in the right place to help your customers grow. Thank you.